Okay, so here's the deal. This is one podcast, the podcast where each episode I just take a single idea and talk about it. Original, right? Well, the point of doing this video podcast is my buddy Brian, my co-host for one of my other podcasts, Conspiracy Theorist. He mentioned he'd like to start doing a video podcast. And so I ordered some nicer webcams, nicer than this laptop webcam. So hopefully we can make it look a little bit professional. And they'll be here Saturday, and we're going to give it a test to see how it goes. And then today, I get a text from my friend Neri, who co-hosts my third podcast, my nerd podcast, my sci-fi podcast, Too Boldly Pod. She's co-hosted a couple of times with me. And she's like, you know what would be cool if we did a Too Boldly Pod as a video podcast? It might be fun. And I was like, well, it's funny because Brian wants to do Conspiracy Theorist as a video podcast, and I just ordered some webcams. So 2 of my 3 podcasts want to start doing video podcasts. So we're going to give it a shot. Give it a little test to see how it goes. Now, I downloaded the software from altercam.com, and we're just testing it out to see how it goes. And like I said, we're just using the laptop camera for now. Hopefully, it'll look a little more professional when I get the nicer webcams set up, and it'll actually, you can be able to see me here, and then over here will be Brian or whoever might be a guest in the studio. And hey, it is what it is. So with this, we're just doing a test, and apologies for the lights of heaven shining in behind me. It's the middle of the afternoon here in Michigan. The sun is beaming down, but hey, I have the blinds down, and you can still see all that light, so that tells you how bright it is. But hey, you know what? Don't look at my ugly mug. Don't look at the light. Just appreciate the I Want to Believe poster behind us. Yeah, so now, one podcast is genuinely just a quick little chat about one specific topic. And today's topic is me hiccuping right here in the middle of a video podcast, but that's neither here nor there. Today's topic for our discussion is something I've been doing for a couple of weeks on social media, and it's a 30-day film challenge. And today's question is, name a movie that changed your life. And this might get a little weird. You might think it's a little sappy. But it really, really did, honestly. And hopefully you'll understand when I'm done. So, growing up, you all know that I love sci-fi movies. And that was pretty much what I have always loved. Sci-fi movies and comedies. Those are my 2 go-to things. Actually, older comedy. Kind of after the 90s, is what it is. But I digress. Now, growing up, my father was a huge movie fan. Up until the day he died, he was a big fan of movies. And long before I ever did it, matter of fact, I used to hate the idea of doing it, but my dad used to go to movies by himself all the time. And I just thought that was stupid. I was in this little mindset that you have to go to movies with people. It's more entertaining. Then 3 or 4 years ago, I did it. And I'm like, I seen what the hell he was talking about. Going to movies by yourself is freaking awesome. Yeah. You're all by yourself, especially when you're in a theater and there's like 3 people. And you're just sitting there all by yourself with your popcorn. Yeah, great. I actually went to a movie about a year ago where I was literally the only person in the theater. Like, I had the entire theater to myself. I mean, I'm one that would... I go to the cheap movies in the morning after work. So it was like 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm trying to remember what I seen, which I can't recall right now. I think it was the sci-fi movie. I'm forgetting it right now, but it is what it is. it's irrelevant to the whole conversation. But anyways, my dad was a huge movie fan. He loved all sorts of movies. He's the one that got me into 50s sci-fi movies, which I dearly love to this day. But that wasn't all he liked. He loved war movies, he loved westerns, and he was a huge fan of James Bond. Now, growing up, I just thought James Bond was this stupid spy movie that my father loved. I actually, as a little kid, I hated it. And Dateline 1979, little 10-year-old Danny went to Silver Lake Drive-In with his father to see a James Bond movie. That movie was Moonraker. Why did little Danny even want to go? Well, Moonraker, if you know it, has a little bit of a sci-fi / space theme, so that's why I wanted to go. And you hear people talk about how a light bulb goes off in their head. They have an epiphany, I suppose. And sitting in my dad's car in Silver Lake Drive-In in 1979, watching the movie Moonraker, a light bulb went off in my head. And I totally got why my father loved James Bond movies. Now, maybe it was because of the space sci-fi theme. I don't know. Probably. But within that, I totally got why my father loved James Bond so much. And from that point forward and backwards, I too was a huge James Bond fan. So, not so much the Daniel Craig years. They're good movies, but I'm the old school Roger Moore, Sean Connery, lesser extent Timothy Dalton Bond fan, but it is what it is. I understood why my father loved those campy little spy movies from Great Britain. And to this day, I too love James Bond. I don't have a closer for this podcast, so I'll just simply say, not shaken, not stirred, Budweiser. I'm going to get sued for that, aren't
I? WLLP, Spock Rock Radio.